So in this message series, I have been looking at the role of resilience and wonder or awe and living the soul life. What do those have to offer us? How can we get more of it? More resilience, more awe, and deeper into living the soul life. The poem inspired me for many reasons, which you will understand from Ibn Arabi. What wonder is this? A garden among the flames. So here, this Sufi scholar and mystic poet is inviting us, of course, to use our capacity to look beyond appearances and see with the eyes of the heart. Life is full of wondrous grace, that I know, but I also know that we have to develop our capacity to recognize it and also to cooperate with it, to participate in it. And I also know that no matter what the situation in life that we're facing, the solution is always this, which is to go straight to the goal being to reconnect with your divine self, with the soul, with your essence of being, and consciously enter God's presence or Spirit's presence, however you think of that. Shift your consciousness from that narrow frame to a wider perspective that sometimes is beyond what we know, often is beyond what we know. We don't know how we're going to get through whatever challenge we're facing, but we can move from worry to worship, from worry to wonder. So remembering that truth of our being, learning how to shift our attention is really the key to being resilient and to experiencing life as full of awe and wonder, and learning how to live a soul-inspired, grace-filled, awesome life. So what is it that brings forth the rare flower after a fire? What allows us to have hope amidst despair, or the strength to meet the challenges in life when they seem insurmountable? I began this series last month with a focus on resilience, how we withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions, how we can bounce back, regain our strength. And I offered a definition of resilience from Dr. Simran Singh, who said, resilience is about our ability to find hope and agency amidst difficulty. Resilience is about our ability to find hope and agency amidst difficulty. And I've been playing with my own definition, and I want to recommend you do that too. Resilience is important, and so how do you think of it? What is it to you? So my working definition is that resilience is our ability to be anchored in awareness of our spiritual nature as we act skillfully among change and challenge. So it's how to be steadfast with our spiritual awareness and as we are interacting with changing conditions. But today I want to focus on awe and its close cousin, wonder. And consider how awe is an inherent natural support for us to be resilient. We need awe. And we need to know about how we can line ourselves up for it. So we can start with what do we know about it? I'm hoping, guessing, knowing that you have all experienced it at one time or another, because it's natural to being a human being, to experience awe. What is our experience of it? What is your experience of it? Do you see it as some kind of rarefied spiritual experience that comes unbidden? Or is it possible to arrange conditions in life to experience more awe? Does awe change us? So I think it's useful to start with our own experience of it. We can ask ourselves, how have I experienced awe in my life? When was the first time as a child that you experienced it? What's the first childhood memory you have of awe? Being awestruck, captured by wonder. What was it like? What was it related to? How does that memory linger with you even today? And really important in this inquiry about awe is to ask ourselves, what was my most recent experience of awe? Studies have shown children experience a lot of it. And then, not surprisingly, in midlife, when we get really busy, not so much. When we get older, more. So it's an interesting curve. I've been reading a new book that's out by Dr. Keltner, a professor of psychology at UC Berkeley, and the book is entitled Awe, the New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life. So his career has been dedicated to the science of human emotion. And as you know, today they're using lots of research and brain mapping to learn about what the experience of emotion actually is. So he's been studying compassion and awe and how emotions guide our moral identities and our search for meaning in life. So I think his years of study and research positioned him really well for this study of awe, and also his own willingness to grapple with his own experience of it, his own life experiences. But, awe has been elusive. There's been studies of happiness and anger and love and hatred and all of that, but not so much awe. And probably because by its very nature, it's elusive. And the experience of it is so varied with people, it's hard to pin down. And also, by definition, it's beyond words. So, what is awe? How would you define it? The dictionary gives us this, one dictionary gives us this definition: a feeling of reverential respect mixed with fear and wonder. Keltner, this author of this book on awe, and a co-researcher of his, contemporary researcher and philosopher Jonathan Haidt, wrote, "Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world." I really like that definition. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. Like meditation, which I highlighted in the first message in this series, experiences of awe are transformative. They do change us. And I would say this is something we already know. We have had experiences that, have opened us to higher understanding, we would say. But even though we know this about awe, I think looking at the research is helpful. Learning about how it actually transforms us, taking an investigative look at awe is encouraging. I found it extremely encouraging because I think we need some medicine for our time, and we don't need a medicine we can buy. We need the medicine of the soul, and awe is one of them. And we have free access to it. Keltner wrote, "How does awe transform us?" Then he responds, "By quieting the nagging, self-critical, overbearing, status-conscious voice of ourself or ego, and empowering us to collaborate, to open our mind to wonders, and to see the deep patterns of life." I'm ready for that medicine. So this is important. And I think it is something that we know. You know, when we experience something that is awesome to us, we have that expansion beyond our current understanding. We have the whoa experience or the wow experience. We're momentarily freed from ego-based identity. We're not worried in that moment. We're awestruck. And from the research cited in the book, he writes, "Awe's vanishing self has even been charted in our brains." So you scientists among us are going to really like this. "The focus in this work has been the default mode network, or what is referred to as the DMN, regions of the cortex that are engaged when we process information from an egocentric point of view. This finding would suggest that when we experience awe, regions of the brain that are associated with the excesses of the ego, including self-criticism, anxiety, and even depression, quiet down. As our default self vanishes, other studies have shown awe shifts us from a competitive dog-eat-dog mindset to perceive that we are part of networks of more interdependent, collaborating individuals. We sense that we are part of a chapter in the history of a family, a community, a culture, and an ecosystem. It's how we experience being part of all that is. Great. So then comes, well, by its very nature, awe is mysterious. It just happens. So along with me, don't you wonder, okay, can it happen more regularly? And the answer is yes. And it's not exactly the yes that you might think. The answer is yes because it can occur more regularly because it already does. So I hope I have a room full and a online full group of people who are going to become awe scientists this week in their life. Awe sleuths. So the studies show that awe is not rare and that it occurs regularly, on average, are you ready for this? 2 or 3 times a week. That's once every couple of days. And I know you're going, because I was, well, where have I been? But once we start to look, really look, then our own observation reveals it. Once we take the time and the intentionality to explore it. And you might be still saying, really? I think many of us experience awe in ways that go unnoticed because we're too narrowly determined to get through the list of the day, or because we have an idea that awe must be something that is an overwhelming mystical type of experience. But in fact, we do have what could be called many ordinary experiences of awe regularly. So like ordinarily extraordinary, let's put it that way. This opening of our hearts and our minds and our consciousness to something more vast than the ego-based self. Happening all the time in a life near you. It's happening, but we may not be taking it in, may not be registering it, or allowing it to be as transformative as it can be. In his research, Keltner and his colleagues identified 8 categories of awe, which they call the 8 wonders of life. So I'm just going to run down the list for you, because my guess is that you'll remember ways in which you have experienced awe in many, if not all, of these categories. The first one, so what I want to say about, they identified these through their research with hundreds of people, and what they call context-specific ways in which we ascribe meaning to vast experiences. So these are contexts in which awe is likely to occur and does occur. So first on the list is moral beauty, which is like witnessing acts of courage or compassion. Second is going to be a familiar one, nature. Experiencing its vastness, its grandeur, its beauty that has us feel, connected to life in a different way. The third they call collective effervescence. What the heck? In this, they point to what is almost like a tribal experience of we. So it could be like a wedding, it could be a bar mitzvah, it could be a marriage blessing, it could be sporting events. Not last night's Warriors game, unless you were on the other team. But that sense of group energy rising up together, that is awesome. Or watching Curry make that shot from the other side of the court. Awesome. Everybody is sharing in that experience. Number 4, music. Yeah. 5, visual design, which could be architecture, sculpture, painting. I remember seeing Michelangelo's David. Definitely an experience of awe. Spirituality or religious experience. Yogananda was so strong on this, of course. I mean, his mission was to help people wake up to the truth of their being. But he said, for the centers, places where people gather, he insisted, teach people to meditate and let them have an experience of God. That was his goal. Not so much to teach, although that was part of it, but the main thing, open the door to awe for people, open the door to direct experience beyond the narrow self. Number 7, witnessing birth and death experiences. And number 8, epiphanies, aha, sudden insights into essential truths. And they said, if your favorite didn't show up on the list, there is a category called other. So, I've been investigating like where my experiences fall on this list. It's a very good list. So the opportunity to experience awe surrounds us every day, and what is needed is for us to pay attention, for us to be present. And along with paying attention, I think to cultivate curiosity about what we are encountering or witnessing and how it is influencing us to open our hearts and our minds to something greater. Let the feeling bloom. Awe is the feeling that accompanies encountering something vast that is beyond our current understanding of how the world is. It's a feeling that interrupts our conditioned perception of life and takes us out of the narrowly focused, ego-driven mindset into wonder. So I want to close with a poem that I wrote about awe that showed up for me recently on my walk home from the grocery store. And this is a poem about an encounter with crows. And there are a lot of crows around these days. And I've had lots of encounters with them. You know, they shout at you sometimes, talking to you. Sometimes they like to dive bomb you if you're getting near their nests and they feel threatened by you. But this experience was quite different. So I tried to put my wonder, my awe about this experience into words. On an ordinary afternoon, a group of neighborhood crows lead me home from Safeway. They fly just above me, a little ahead, then stop on the overhead wire, waiting for me to catch up. On it goes like that. They fly my familiar route, stay close to me, go ahead, stop, wait, then fly again, a few feet forward. You know, like a friend who drives in front of you to guide you someplace you have not been, pulls over and stops now and then so you can catch up and stay in sight of one another. I carry a backpack of groceries, ingredients, and plans for supper. The crows carry the wind and portents of grace, the nourishment we need most now. These are times when everything is speaking to us and urging us to learn a new language. Listen carefully. Use the ear of your heart and the eye of your soul to walk the path you thought you knew. These are the times when everything is speaking to us. How awesome.